Hello and greetings to Dr. Wan Zunaira and Dr. Fatima. We are Group 2 and in this video we will be presenting our case study entitled The Effects of Different Types and Levels of Proteins on Muffin Characteristics. Throughout this video we will explain the background of our study, this procedure we followed, the observations we made and the results we obtained. Let's begin.
Today, our objective is to understand the function of protein in food production and to examine the effects of different levels of protein on food product. Why protein is needed in our product? Proteins are added to food product because they help improve important qualities like texture, taste, mouthfeel, and appearance. They also support shelf life and help during food processing, such as mixing, forming, or forming gel and emulsion. Proteins have functional properties which is affect food behavior during preparation, processing, and storage. They also improve the nutritional value of food and sometimes have health effects. Some are like surfactant to help with form and emulsion, while others can bend water and form gel under heat or certain conditions.
Next, I will continue by explaining the procedure carried out by our group which focused on the use of normal protein, flour and whole eggs in our muffin formulation. We started by creaming 80 grams of cashew sugar with 80 grams of margarine until the mixture becomes light and fluffy. This step is important for incorporating air into the butter, which can influence the muffin's texture and volume. Next, we added 200 grams of whole egg into the cream mixture. Whole eggs provide both structural and emulsifying properties, which help stabilize the muffin batter and contribute to its final texture. After that, we added the dry ingredients, which consisted of 200 grams of normal protein flour, 8 grams of baking powder, and 8 drops of vanilla essence for flavor. We ensured all ingredients were well mixed to form a homogeneous batter. The batter was then poured evenly into muffin cups. We gently tapped the cups to level the batter and measured the initial height of each muffin for later comparison. The muffin would then bake in a preheated oven at 160 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. Once baked, we let the muffins cool at room temperature and then measured the final height to compare with the initial height. This helped us assess the extent of muffin rise and structure retention. Finally, we conducted sensory and physical evaluations on the muffins. We assessed the texture such as softness and moistness, crumb structure, uniformity and airiness, and overall acceptability including taste and appearance.
Next, I will begin with data collection for color tests which focus on the browning effects of muffin made with different protein levels. We use the LAB color system and calculate the browning index for the muffin. For the group 1, they used low protein flour and the browning index was 78.47. And then the browning index for group 2, we got 66.12 with using the normal protein flour.
Based on the table of the color test, browning index of low protein muffin higher than normal protein muffin. This contradicted with the theory. Theoretically, the higher the protein content, the higher the value of browning index. Higher browning index indicated the great browning effect, since there were more protein available for Maillard reaction. This result might due to the overbaking of the low protein muffin.
This diagram shows the sensory evaluation of muffin group 1 and group 2. For color, normal protein muffin received a higher score 8 than low protein muffin 7, meaning it was liked very much. It may be due to higher protein content and hence the Maillard reaction during baking. In terms of aroma, the low-protein muffin scores slightly higher 7 compared to the normal protein muffin 6, suggesting that the aroma of the low-protein muffin was more pleasant or stronger. The taste scores were the same for both muffin 6, indicating that both were liked slightly. The most noticeable difference was its softness. The low-protein muffin scored 5, while the normal protein muffin scored only 3, which falls under dislike moderately. This indicates that the normal protein muffin was firmer and less tender because higher protein flour developed more gluten during mixing and baking, resulting in a denser, chewier texture. In contrast, the low-protein flour produced less gluten, giving a softer, more tender crumb, which is more desirable in muffins. Despite the difference in texture, both muffins received the same score for overall acceptability, which is 6.
Here, what we found, for the colors, normal protein flour muffins scored the highest than low protein, likely due to better browning from more Maillard reaction. For the aroma, interestingly, low protein muffins score highest than normal protein, possibly due to different volatile compound. And then, for the taste, both types received the same score, which is 6, indicating the similar flavor profile. For the softness, low-protein flour muffins were perceived as softer, which is 5, compared to normal protein, which is 3. This is because low-protein flour forms less gluten that can give a softer crumb. For the overall acceptability, both muffins were rated the same, which is 6.
Here we have two graphs showing the results for our texture profile analysis, or TPA. The first graph on the left illustrates the average values of hardness, fracturability, gumminess, and chewiness for two different muffins formulations, Group 1 and Group 2. As we can see, both formulations have similar trends in texture, but Group 1 shows slightly higher in hardness and chewiness. The second graph on the right presents the average values of springiness and resilience. Formulation of Group 1 has slightly better in springiness, while Group 2 shows slightly higher in resilience. These differences help us to understand how each formulation affects the texture characteristics of the muffins. Now let's move on to the next TPA graphs. This graph shows the cohesiveness and adhesiveness of the muffins. The average cohesiveness of the muffin in Group 1 is slightly lower than in Group 2, and it is quite similar for both formulations, meaning the muffins held together equally well. While for the adhesiveness, both had low values, showing the muffins didn't stick much when eaten. This bar graph shows the average height for the muffins. Muffins that made with the normal protein flour were taller at about 4.73 cm, while those with low protein flour were shorter at about 4 cm. The normal protein flour helped the muffins to rise more during baking. This bar graph shows the average volume of muffins made with two different types of flour. The muffins of Group 2 had a higher volume, about 59.44 cm3, while the muffins of Group 1 had a smaller volume, about 50.27 cm3. This shows that normal protein flour helps to produce muffins with greater volume.
Based on the graph of copy A, the hardness, chewiness, springiness of normal protein muffin lower than low protein muffin. This contradicted with the theory also. Theoretically, the lower the protein content, the lower the gluten content, the weaker the gluten network. The softer the muffin and the less chewy the muffins. The lower the gluten content, the less elastic the muffin. Then the less the springiness of the muffins. This result might due to the over mixing, which leads to stronger gluten network of low protein muffin. However, the cohesiveness and adhesiveness of normal protein muffin higher than low protein muffin, which obey the theory. Normal protein indicated sufficient formations of gluten, leading to a stronger and hard fracture crown. Hence, the muffin conduct a high cohesiveness. Normal protein flour forms a balanced network where gluten moderate starch gelatinization, hence no sticky behavior. Low protein system lack the starch gelatinization control, leading to overly cohesive starch gel that feels sticky.
Heck before and after baking. For heck after baking, normal protein muffin had a greater heck after baking, which is 4.73 cm, compared to the low protein muffin with the heck of 4 cm. It is because normal protein flour contains more gluten-forming proteins. So, when mixed, this protein develop into a stronger gluten network, which provides a better elasticity and structure to the batter, allowing it to trap more gas produced during the leavening, resulting in a greater expansion and a taller muffin. In contrast, the low-protein flour produces less gluten, forming a weaker network that is less effective at retaining gas. Therefore, the muffin rises less and has a shorter head after baking. For volume, normal protein muffin had a greater final volume, which is 64.5 ml, than low protein muffin, which is 49.5 ml. This is due to the stronger gluten network formed in the normal protein muffins, which was more effective in trapping and holding the gas produced during baking. As a result, more air was retained, leading to greater volume, while the weaker gluten structure in low-protein muffins allowed the air to escape more easily, resulting in a finer but smaller crown with less overall expansion.
In this case study, Group 1 served as the control and used low-protein flour, while my group, Group 2, used normal protein flour. When comparing these two, the muffin from Group 1 showed a more uniform crumb structure and a noticeably softer texture. This is due to the lower protein content, which result in less gluten formation. This allows the crumb to stay fine and tender. In contrast, the muffins from my group had a less uniform crumb with larger, uneven air pockets, firmer, and slightly chewer texture. This outcome is linked to the higher protein content in the flour, which lead to the greater gluten development and a denser structure. Overall, the comparison highlights that Group 1 that used low-protein flour produced softer and more uniform muffins, while my group, which is Group 2, that used normal protein flour, creates a firmer and more structured crumb.
So now let us move on to the discussion questions. The different protein types affect the muffin height by influencing the batter structure and its ability to trap and retain the gas during baking. Muffins made with the whole egg generally show greater height compared to those made with egg white powder, skim milk powder, or their combinations. This is because whole egg contain both protein and fat, which help create a stable emulsion. The emulsion helps the batter trap and hold air during mixing and baking, which make the muffin rise higher and has a lighter texture. In contrast, egg white powder provides only protein and no fat. Although it can help stabilize foam when whipped, it tends to create a firmer and less flexible structure in baked goods. This stiffness can restrict the batter from expanding fully during baking, leading to muffins with less height. Skim milk powder, which is rich in casein and whey protein, contribute to structural firmness but has less gas holding capacity. Its protein absorb water and increase the batter viscosity, which can reduce the gluten development and limit gas expansion. So the resulting muffins made with skim milk powder alone or in combination with egg white powder tend to be denser and shorter.
The second question here is, which protein creates the softest texture? Muffin which made with skim milk powder and distilled water only. There are three types of protein, which is whole egg contain high protein and high fat. Skim milk powder contain low protein and low fat. Egg white powder contain high protein and low fat. The lower the protein content, the softer the texture. The higher the fat content, the softer the texture. But the softness here are mainly depends on protein first, then fat. This will because the fat softer the texture might cause the protein, making it harder to link together. Softness here is increasing from egg white powder, whole egg, to skim milk powder.
Number 3. Did the type of protein impact the sensory acceptability? Yes. Muffin made with whole egg were generally the most well-liked because the whole egg contained both protein and fat, which help create a soft, moist texture and rich flavor. The fat contributes to tenderness and mouthfeel, making the muffin more pleasant to eat. In contrast, the muffin made with the egg white powder were often perceived as too dry or firm, because egg white lacks fat. Even though it supports the foam formation, it often results in a denser texture and a less satisfying mouthfeel. As for skim milk powder, it makes the muffin chewier and denser, because its proteins absorb water and thicken the batter. It doesn't add much flavor or softness, so the texture feels heavier. Some people might like the mild dairy taste, but others may not enjoy it. Also, when egg white powder and skim milk powder were mixed, the muffin became very dense, dry, and blunt. This made them the least liked because they were not soft or flavorful.
In conclusion, the protein content affect the texture, volume, and browning of muffin. Normal protein flour produce taller muffins with firmer texture and greater volume due to a stronger gluty network. However, low protein muffin show higher browning possibly due to overbaking. Overall, protein plays a key role in structure and appearance, but baking condition also influence final result.